Before we get started, I'd like to make a couple of announcements. First off, beginning with this episode, I am bringing back the podcast surveys that will enable us to do two things. First, it will allow me to ask fun questions to you that you can answer anonymously, and second, it gets me feedback on the episode, whether it be how the episode did, the guest, or certain topics themselves. That will be in the description below. I'll generally post it on Discord and Twitter. And secondly, if you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Westlocracy and get a variety of benefits from $1 to $5. Some of the benefits include knowing who the guest is ahead of time, having your question or topic be discussed on the show, a Discord chat room to get some of the more in-depth stats for the month, a short song written about you performed on the show, and more. Hello everybody, my name is Wes and welcome to the 40th special edition of the BS Podcast. This week I've brought in the winner of a straw poll on what guest you wanted to see come back. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm back. I'm Flurdeh. I was here like 2 months ago, I believe, roughly.
Yeah, the beginning of July.
Yeah. And yeah, glad to be back.
And what's interesting to me is that since coming on the podcast, which we recorded it at the end of June, it went up like the first day of July, your channel has seen a 20% increase in subs and a 25% increase in total views. First, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Secondly, how does it feel?
Well, I had to know it from a viewer that I crossed the 500 mark. I only discovered that, like, I believe 2 weeks later. So I guess that was fun. I don't really look at those kind of milestones, to be honest.
And I feel like when it comes to looking at milestones, you have to be on either... People are generally on one of two sides of the fence. One, you don't pay attention to it, or you pay way too much attention to it. Not many people find the in-between there.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it from time to time, but if I look at it, I go straight through either the comments section of the YouTube app, or to see where external views are coming from. And I generally skip the entire thing about how many subscribers or whatever.
Yeah, for me, YouTube analytics don't mean much to me because I've said it before, I'll continue to say it. They're not factual. I've proven the watch time to be inaccurate. I've proven this on my end, at least. At least for my account, I can guarantee they're not 100% properly working. So for me, once I know some of the analytics is no good, I can't trust any of the analytics to be good, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because, well, first of all, my videos are short, so I believe that sort of things also have a lot to do with the analytics being kind of screwed up. Because, I mean, people are generally watching the entire video because they're so short, but...
Exactly. And especially with what you do, once you begin watching, and, I mean, you're either going to stay for one or two reasons. One, you want to see how this game looks under the setting you give it. Or two, you just want to hear the music attached to it. These are generally the two reasons. And I definitely like the sound that goes with the videos.
I have noticed that some videos do get more attention because of the music, yeah.
Does that surprise you? Do you put a lot of thought into the music?
I do put a lot of thought into the music. I always try to find something that, well, first of all, I try to have something that is obviously related to the game itself. I don't want to have random music. I used to do that before I kind of soft rebooted the channel. But now I always try to either have it from the game soundtrack itself, or from a another creator, a music creator that made a cover for the game.
Makes sense. And as I listen to it, I mean, a lot of the time, that's generally the vibe I get. It matches the game you're playing, and I think that's pretty important for, or not necessarily playing, but showing off. I think that really helps its case when you watch it, when you get that vibe from the music, and it can kind of put you into the game's atmosphere.
Yeah, I what I really want to do more is have the sounds in the game itself, if that makes sense. Like not the music itself, but what I used to do was also leave the sound on, of like I guess the ambience.
Yeah.
But that didn't really always work out, and at that point I mean the recording of the visuals itself took me too long to want to bother with the sounds itself as well. So I kind of skipped over that, but now I feel more, I guess, confident in that I want to try it again.
Makes a lot of sense. It's very. I imagine that stuff is more complicated than the little things I do. So I probably wouldn't be very good at that kind of stuff.
I mean, people always think it's a very complicated thing. It's not very complicated. It just takes, I guess, time. But I believe I said this before on the previous episode I was on, that I want to make people try this themselves and realize how easy it actually is to do and fun.
Very true. And especially, like, the more channels that can experiment with more atmospheric stuff, 'cause at the end of the day, I probably said it last time, I really enjoy the different perspective on the game that the gameographies give. It definitely gives a different vibe that I think is very good to have to appreciate a game in full.
Yeah, I agree.
So, this may or may not be a bust. Okay. So, I haven't played it, but, and I don't know many people that officially would have, but have you tried out WoW's Classic that they
Yes,
released?
I have. I've been playing the entire week, actually.
Tell me all about this. I am very curious. The one thing I
It is.
see that I've seen throughout, I don't know. It's one of two things, because like RuneScape, which is the one I play, there are worlds that do have a cap, but we obviously RuneScape has been around for years, and even old school RuneScape, which would be the WoW Classic equivalent, you're not going to fill up those worlds very easily. I mean, you could fill up a world or two, but you're not going to fill them all up. But anytime I see people, I always see them stuck waiting in a queue to get into a realm. So my question is, are there not enough realms, or what makes the realms so special from the other ones that you see these long queues?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't know if I believe in RuneScape you can move your character between the worlds
You
constantly,
can.
right? Yeah. And in World of Warcraft, you pick a realm, create your character, and that character is always on that realm. So you're basically stuck on that. Well, I mean, you can move it. I believe in the normal version of WoW, you have to pay for that. I believe right now for WoW Classic they let you transfer for free on certain realms. I'm not sure. But there are three types of realms. One is a PvP server, which is, well, I mean, PvP is always enabled, so between Horde and Alliance in open world. And then there's realms that don't have that PvP enabled, and then there's realms that are role playing instead of, well, I guess PvP.
Yep.
And personally, I play on PvP because I mean that's how I always played it when well, I guess originally played World of Warcraft. So that's just what I'm used to, and those are also the most popular. And I believe my realm had like 2 hours wait time in the first few days, but it's much less now.
I can't even imagine it. Cause I returned to old school RuneScape, 75, 76 days ago. I couldn't imagine what my reaction would be if I had tried to rejoin it, make a new account, and I'm like, oh, there's a multi-hour wait to get into the world I'd like to go to. That would just kind of baffle me, and I mean that's the biggest thing. Like I'm sure, as you said, those queues aren't gonna last as long once the new people or returning players, once that initial pop fades away. But when it comes to how WoW Classic actually plays, how is it?
Um, for 2004 or 2006, I believe. I'm sure it was amazing. Nowadays, it doesn't really hold up as well, but I mean, it's fun to revisit. Um, I'm having a lot of fun playing it together with a friend. Um, but I don't think I'm one of those people that will like really stick to the end game because I mean, if it's gonna say static essentially, I mean, there's at some point not really anything you can do anymore.
Will it be staying static? Like old school RuneScape, for example, they still do updates. They're not going to do groundbreaking updates. That's why it's old school, because people wanted they wanted to go back. But they'll do like they have old school RuneScape, for example, has these polls, which for the most part they follow. They get in controversy if they even make the smallest of changes without a fan poll voted thing. But when it comes to the poll, it needs 70% of the voters' approval. Otherwise, they won't do anything. And I think that's a good system.
I don't think that for World of Warcraft they will make like quote unquote new content. What I think they might do is at some point they introduce the Burning Crusade again, which is the first expansion pack for World of Warcraft, but make it on separate servers again and allowing people that want to transfer over to basically that expansion, and maybe for Wrath of the Lich King as well, which is the second expansion. I kind of hope they do that instead of like creating new content itself, because I think creating a new like content pack or expansion is gonna create a lot of controversy as well.
So you think that what their tactic they're gonna take is milk it again? They're gonna milk the cow again. They brought the cow back, and now they're gonna remilk it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you don't have to. I don't think they will. I think they're gonna keep it to the subscription, because it's included in the regular World of Warcraft subscription. Thank God.
Is it still $15 a month, or the equivalent for where you live? Is it still?
I believe it's 12 here. Yeah.
See, for me as a kid, because I was big into the MMORPG thing, but I decided on RuneScape because I guess $5 is much easier to justify than triple the price, which is what it was, and apparently, basically still is now. That I couldn't imagine $15 a month dedicated to one game.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, I when I was a kid and I wanted World of Warcraft and realized that it was 12 or 15 a month, I went to buy Guild Wars instead, which is just a one-time purchase.
Yep.
but I think if it's like all you play, I can kind of see a justification behind it. But I'm not the kind of person
Absolutely.
that plays one game. So, I mean, I'm older now and I can afford it. So I
You can
sometimes buy a month
splurge.
of I sometimes buy a month and treat myself to World of Warcraft. But
That makes sense. I mean, it's the individual's choice on if this amount of money a month or this one-time purchase of $60 plus expansion packs or whatever it may be, would be worth it to the individual people for individual games. But yeah, for me, I just couldn't see it. I mean, I'm not gonna pay for RuneScape now. That ain't gonna be a thing that happens.
yeah, and I'm sure I believe RuneScape does this. I'm not sure if the classic version of RuneScape does it, but for World of Warcraft you can nowadays buy subscription with gold, which is also
Yeah,
pretty
they
good.
have old school RuneScape has bonds, which I'm pretty sure the main game has, but they're not even super expensive. Like I started a new account, so it's gonna take me a while with a free to play account to make that much money. But it's not an impossible goal if you set your mind to doing it. It's
Yeah,
very achievable.
yeah. I mean, I like that system, like giving people the chance to not actually having to spend uh real life money on it, and instead sell your soul to the game.
Yeah, exactly. You can either sell your soul to the game, or you can just pay $5. It is.
I mean, it's an easy
Now
choice,
that I
right?
say it, I feel like if people rolled the tape between me saying something about microtransactions or whatever, you'd find an inconsistency there. I can see that. I can see an inconsistency, but RuneScape is a childhood bias, and I think that makes this one situation different for me with my childhood bias.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, what I've learned is you're probably not going to play World of Warcraft Classic for thousands of hours. I'm sure some
No, I don't.
people will, but
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Mostly for the PvP, though, probably.
I'm interested to see what people think is better in a couple years' time. Will people say that RuneScape did the old school theme better, or did WoW do it better with Classic? It's going to be interesting to see. Now, the only unfair part is you said what WoW is going back to like 2004. RuneScape did like 2007 ish. So 3 years can make a big gap, but it's the same core concept.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're both MMOs, but they do kind of play differently. I mean, I haven't really played RuneScape in a very long time, so I'm not sure.
For shame.
um, I think people are gonna say Blizzard did better purely because of the I guess the fandom behind World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I can probably see that. I can see that being the case.
I mean,
So,
I'm not sure, but
go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm not sure if that will be the case. I mean, maybe in a few years people hate Blizzard, but I
People seem
don't.
to go back and forth with Blizzard.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the current expansion for the regular version of World of Warcraft, I guess.
I guess. And for me, I think, ironically, the thing I always heard about Blizzard throughout the 2010s was that their games would freeze a lot.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what I heard. But I don't think I've really. What I'm sure I've played a game that Blizzard has done, but I've probably not put many hours into any Blizzard title.
Well, I've played a lot of Overwatch. quite a few hours,
Which,
and World of Warcraft. But
speaking of Overwatch, did you see that Overwatch is coming to the Nintendo Switch?
yep, I did. I am. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why. It seems like a very um good game for the Nintendo audience, so to speak.
It does. Visually, I think it matches the theme Nintendo sets to give. I seen they're gonna incorporate the motion controls in, at least in portions. So that will be interesting.
I mean, yeah. I don't really like the. That's why I don't have any shooters on the Switch. But I do think I would prefer to have motion controls over the
Joystick.
thumbsticks because the joysticks on the at least on the default controller isn't
Yeah.
very good.
That makes a lot of sense. For me, I don't own a Nintendo Switch, but I find it so fascinating to see how my interest of the Nintendo Switch goes over time. And what I found is the more and more titles, I feel like the Nintendo Switch is actually being competitive in their own way. I don't think they're going to take over the number 2 spot between like Sony and Microsoft in that battle, that eternal war. But Nintendo's always been that third outcast between the bunch.
They've always been like the way I picture it is like Sony and Microsoft are those like the two kids in the park always fighting, and Nintendo is in the background doing its own thing, playing with the ball,
reading a book.
Yeah. Something
Nerd.
like that.
So before the podcast started, I asked you to take this Avatar: The Last Airbender quiz before the show. I can't wait to hear the results. Yeah, tell me all about it.
So I got not one result, but 2 results.
Oh.
I have 33% in Earthbender and 33% in Airbender.
Huh. So it sounds to me like you have a choice on what bender you're gonna be. So, what sounds cooler to you, being an Earthbender or being an Airbender?
The Earthbender one sounds a lot like me. And on top of that, it is the one on top. I don't know if they actually go like in order in some way, but
my results for reference, I had a 38% Earthbender, 33% Airbender, 19% Firebender, and 10% Waterbender.
Alright, because I had 33% in Earthbender and Airbender, then I got 24 in Waterbender, and then 10% in Firebender.
So at the end of the day, neither of us are cut out to be fire or waterbenders.
No, apparently not.
But if we had to be a spy for either the Earthbenders or the Airbenders, it sounds like we could do a good job.
Yeah. I mean, well, the Earthbender really does sound like me. I mean, one of the first things it mentions is you have a very long fuse, which is very true. And get annoyed very infrequently. So, I mean, if I had a choice, I would take that one.
And plus, I would just want to be an Earthbender over an Airbender. And if you get good enough at Earthbending, you can metal bend. So, wouldn't you want to be able to bend a metal by the time you're like 30 and you learn how to do it? I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, well, like I said before the podcast, I haven't watched Avatar in a very long time, and I haven't seen all of it, but I mean, what is an airbender gonna do?
I mean, they can take
Play
the
with the
air out
wind
of
a
your
bit?
lungs, I guess.
Oh, I guess.
If they wanted to be murderers, I don't think they covered that in the show. But I mean, if you can control the air, you can just take it out of their lungs and do that.
Yeah, but With Earthbender, you can move the Earth.
Yeah.
It's way
And
more
I always
interesting.
I always like to imagine, like, you just stomp your foot and then just a rock pillar just uppercuts them right in the chin and knocks them out. I always like that picture.
The only thing I'm disappointed in is it prompted me to pick the coolest thing, which is like the flying bison, a giant mole, I believe, and
Uh-huh.
something else, and a dragon. And of course, the dragon is the lowest on my or well, the thing with the dragon is the lowest on the list of results. I mean, why wouldn't you pick anything else than a dragon?
That makes a lot of sense. I don't know what 10% I had waterbend in. No, I know one of them. Wasn't one of them color? I definitely prefer blue over other colors, so that if that was an option,
Oh,
I
that
definitely
might
would have picked
actually be
that
the
one.
110% for fire.
Ah.
Well,
Okay, yeah,
for
think
dragon,
about
yeah.
how the various questions can definitely directly relate to what you actually got. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this quiz, it's just one of those silly quizzes that you find, but once you take it, you're like, huh, what do the people I talk to get with this quiz? It's very life-changing. So, the first big topic, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I've been waiting over a week to talk about it. So,
All right.
Telltale is being relaunched. Telltale Games, which shut down last year, is being revived after its assets were purchased by a company called LCG Entertainment. The new company will sell some of Telltale's back catalog and will work on new games based on a few Telltale associated properties, as well as new licenses. The new Telltale is headed by Jamie Attili. I don't fucking know how to say that last name. I'm sorry, Jamie. And Brian Waddle. Waddle is a great last name, by the way. And Jamie said that some workers from the original Telltale games will be offered freelance roles with full-time positions possible in the future. Jamie has spent much of his career in mobile games, most recently as founder and CEO of Galaxy Pest Control, which is best known for licensed games based on Duck Dynasty and Power Rangers. Waddle's previous experience includes running sales and marketing for the Havoc game engine. Neither worked at Telltale Games prior to its shuttering in 2018. In an interview with Polygon, Jamie confirmed that the new business has back catalog rights to licensed properties The Wolf Among Us and Batman, as well as full rights to original Telltale games such as Puzzle Agent. There are some other expired licenses that we're looking at, Jamie talked about, and he said it's possible the new Telltale will pick up some stories from where they left off. We're still evaluating, but we definitely want to continue some of the stories, but it looks like The Walking Dead, for example, will not be coming back. That license is now owned by Skybound, which has its own plan for game releases. The status of previous Telltale licenses, such as Borderlands, Game of Thrones, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Minecraft, has not been announced. When asked about Telltale's previous plans to release a game based on Stranger Things, he said that the rights had reverted back to Netflix. Jamie said that he bought the rights to Telltale because he believes in the future of adventure games. He said, and I quote, "This is a viable business that went away due to market conditions and some skill choices." Telltale's previous management. I like games that tell stories, and I think our industry should have a company that specializes in narrative-driven games. Publisher Appline Games is a partner in the deal and will handle storefront operations and distribution. Financial backers include various game industry figures, including Chris Kingsley from Rebellion, Lyle Hall, Heavy Iron Studios, and Tobias, I don't know what the fuck your last name is, I'm sorry, bro, formerly of Starbreeze. The revived Telltale Games will be based in Malibu, California, about 400 miles from the original studio's headquarters in some place I've never heard of. We're going to stay small over the next 6 months, and we will work for more of a distributed development pipeline than what Telltale was known for, Jamie said. He also said, we'll focus on tools, technology, and design in-house. Some things like animation and motion capture will be done with the right partnerships externally. Jamie also explained that the company is looking at evolving Telltale's episodic model. We will probably keep the concept of episodes, but with different pacing. This is a different world. From a media consumption standpoint, we need to look at how people like to entertain themselves. I like the idea of binge watching. On Telltale's legacy and its managerial errors, Jamie also said they brought me some of my favorite stories to play, and they did an amazing job building a company. It's unfortunate the way that it ended. Certainly, we're working very hard not to make similar mistakes. Now, with all that news coming out, that was a long read, but I'm really excited for this. Telltale was so unique to me that even if they had a lot of problems on the back end, I really want to see where they can go with this second chance. I hope they skyrocket once more and they become bigger and better than what they were before. How do you feel about this?
I agree. I really, really hope they somehow get back the license for The Walking Dead. Because that is one of the few games that made me cry like a baby. So I really, really hope they bring those. Can manage to bring pretty much all of them, really. All the games back.
I just hope, and they said they want to learn from the past. I hope that they see that one of the big fundamental mistakes the old Telltale made was they had too many projects on their plate, and so they wore themselves thin. I think the first step, when it comes to, you need to win the people back. And I think the way you're going to do that, you need to continue The Wolf Among Us. People have been wanting this for 7 years now. Maybe not 7 years,
long?
but
Okay.
5 to 6 years. 5 to 6 years. People have wanted The Wolf Among Us to continue.
That is the one Telltale game I have never played.
It's
and I
really
don't know
good.
why. It doesn't attract me for some reason.
I feel like if you enjoy Telltale games, even if the world may not interest you immediately, I still feel like if you enjoy that kind of game, you should probably enjoy The Wolf Among Us. Especially, most people will say it was one of the standout titles that Telltale did outside of The Walking Dead.
I mean, I even have it, I believe, so I don't see why I'm not trying it. I do. The one thing that kind of strikes me as odd, though, is that the way they try to invite the previous developers over, or the original developers, I guess. It kind of makes it sound like less benefits for the same work.
Now, I did see this controversy, but I feel like, and I read that as part of the bit of part of what I read. And the thing for me is, I just look at it from a logistical standpoint. Telltale is starting anew.
Yeah,
they don't have the budget to pay these people full time, and they said their plan is you're going to be freelance for a bit. And I think logically, and maybe optimistically, I mean, you can look at it negatively too, but it's either we're going to start freelance, and as we release a game and make money and can afford to pay you and not bankrupt Telltale again, then we can give you full time with the benefits. But I feel like right now, they're right back, because they used to be indie, they're right back to indie now. They're starting anew, they're all the way at the bottom, they have to work their ways back up, so it doesn't make logical sense to me that they could afford to pay the same people what they were before. And so if they're freelance for a bit under the idea, and I hope it holds true, it would be very bad for the new Telltale if they struck these bad things again. But if they stick with what they said, which until we have any evidence that they won't stick to what they say, I'm going to keep them at their word and assume that they're going to go from freelance to full-time logically when it financially makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I hope they can pull that off.
I do too, because I've been sad for the gaming. I'm not big into most gaming news. Like, I can look forward to some game, but like most of the games I talk about, I won't play for another like 2-3 years. Because I'm not playing games right now. I play like old school RuneScape right now, and I'll play like Skyrim and Fallout because these are games that I'm not playing the story of, like on old school RuneScape. I plan on streaming old school RuneScape and doing the quests. So I've not done any quests on old school RuneScape since coming back. Cause I want to save those for streaming so I can experience them in the stream. And that's how I feel about all these games, is I want to experience them on stream.
Yeah, I mean, especially the Telltale Games. They're basically games where, well, I guess with the choices you can make, but it's kind of the type of game you play once and you've seen it all.
We will see if that still holds true.
Yeah, that's true. And like I said, you do have the different choices in some of them. I mean, they're often not that big of a change, but you know.
And that's another thing that I kind of disagree with people on, is I feel like it's good to want your changes to matter, but at the end of the day, for your changes to matter, for your changes to be these big things that goes in hundreds of directions, I don't think you're going to get a big budget, big release like that very often.
No,
and that's why you want to scale it down to what Telltale used to do, the old Telltale, because that makes it much more easy to release multiple a year or multiple episodes a year. That's also something I'm curious to see, if they're still going to do the episodic model, but they're going to release it all at once. I feel like that would kind of take away from one of the things that the old Telltale had going for it, but I don't know if that was actually a profitable method. But I know it had people looking forward to the next episode. And with TV shows, for example, the trend is, if you release it all at once, you're not going to talk about each individual episode. You're going to talk about the season as a whole, compared to like The Walking Dead back when Telltale was first growing out of being an indie thing. People talked about each individual episode.
Yeah. I just had a realization that Sam & Max is also Telltale, and those were really fun games as well. So I kind of hope they bring that sort of stuff back as well.
I don't know. That was not included in the long read I had, so I have no idea if they have that or not. I've played one of those. Yeah, that was definitely something else they should bring back. And if they can go, and I think something else that the new Telltale needs to do that the old Telltale stopped doing was, it's good to have your licensed stuff like The Wolf Among Us or Batman, or probably not Game of Thrones after the show ended and that got a lot of controversy. You may want to just drop Game of Thrones, honestly. But you want to have a mix. You want to have your licensed big stuff, and then I think you want to have one or two of your own projects going on that's more creative on your end and not taken from others.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I'm not sure how the licensing works, but I mean, you're gonna lose a lot of money to begin with the licensing stuff.
Absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure that also had a lot to do with how things ended.
So, the next game series I guess I want to talk about, I feel like, before I get into it, my gut is you've played them, because I feel like at least one of them would be good for the gamography stuff. And if you've done a video on one of them, Bless me and my memory, but oh well. If my memory was good enough to remember every video, everyone that I watched this on, I'd be so much happier. But Rocksteady Studios tweeted out last week about their 10-year anniversary of Batman Arkham Asylum, and and while that may not be an important thing for me, I really enjoyed like Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham City. I haven't played the other ones yet, but I really enjoyed the Arkham series, but they haven't released a new one in a while. Have you played the Arkham series?
Yes, I have played all of them, and I'm a big fan. I have not made a video out of it, but it is definitely on the list.
Yeah, I feel like at least, maybe not like Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, but at least, and I mean, you could do one on both, but at least one of them would be really fascinating to dig into. And I feel like when it comes to what I know about you, that the Arkham series would just be kind of up your alley for games to play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really enjoy the Arkham series as well. Are they not going to do another one, or what is the deal with that?
From what I understand, is I mean, developers have been wearing 2 shirts with the Court of Owls on it. So I believe they are planning on making another game based around the Court of Owls. And I really hope they do, because I mean, with Arkham Knight the story kind of ended, so I wonder how they keep it going. I mean, I guess they can, but or maybe it's a prequel or somewhere in between.
But if they did another prequel, because Origins was a prequel, basically, and that got a mixed response.
Yeah, that one didn't
do
too well. I think it's also because that was made by another studio. I'm not sure.
True. But yeah, that was definitely a mixed response.
I really hope they do make another one, because
yeah, they absolutely should continue making them.
Yeah.
And like, especially for me, the first time I played Arkham Asylum, I'm not a big Batman fan. Batman and Superman are both kinda meh before I headed into Arkham Asylum, and I still think Superman's very meh. But
yeah.
Batman Arkham Asylum still, to this day, has to be my favorite piece of Batman anything. No movie, no game has given me the same Gotham experience. And the Gotham TV show Fox did is number 2 for actual really like Batman Gotham experience. Yeah. But those two things, that's top notch for Batman material for me.
I never was interested in anything superhero related until I played Arkham Asylum. And even now, I mean, I guess Marvel I like, but I still Batman is my number one and pretty much the only really superhero that I would read comics of because of Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, Arkham Asylum, it just did it so well. It tied together all these characters, their background, their story, and especially if you actually looked into everything the game gave you, whether it was the interviews, the random information they'd give in the profiles and all that, it's very interesting to learn about when you're not really into that stuff.
I mean, it is amazing how they managed to I guess fit the Batman or DC universe or whatever into the game without needing any knowledge whatsoever. I mean, I guess everybody at this point pretty much knows who Batman is, but
they tied together so many characters that if you're not super into Batman, it was so smooth.
Yeah.
That now you're aware of who these people are, and the voice acting on that game was generally...
Mark Hamill is my favorite Joker.
Absolutely. And so many of the characters, at the very least, were good voice acted. So I think that really helped its case.
Yes,
and it looked good, it felt good, it played mostly good. I think the combat was fillery, I feel like a lot of it was just filler to add time to the game. But if that's your biggest complaint, oh well.
I mean, yeah, well, I'm not really the type of person to really look at the gameplay, but I feel like they did improve a lot of it in Arkham City is the second one, I believe. Arkham Knight? No, Arkham City,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Arkham City.
But if you get into the rhythm of the combat, it gets really satisfying.
Absolutely. Once you get in that groove, and something else Arkham Asylum started was they started that kind of gameplay engagement that many games now have taken and adapted to. And that's just another reason why Arkham Asylum is just one of the more noticeable games of the past 10 years for me.
Yep. Not a fan of the constant backtracking, though, from what I remember.
True,
been a while since I played it, but I remember a lot of backtracking.
So, I asked you to watch 2 game trailers before we started. And first, The Outer Worlds Come to Halcyon. I feel conflicted because I read what people thought of it, and it doesn't exactly match up with how I felt. For one, I absolutely feel like this is Fallout New Vegas with a new layer. You can see how everything, you can tell they used those same models and adapted them. You can absolutely tell, clear as day, that that's exactly what they've done with a lot of it.
I'm not sure about the models. I haven't really paid attention to that, but I do. Everything does have a very Fallout style to it, or feel to it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I absolutely love Fallout. It's one of my favorite franchises, but
absolutely agree. And for me, I thought visually it looked good for what it is. But people seem to be very critical. People seem to not felt that the colors were kind of dull, or at least it was over exaggerated on the color scheme, and that it looked very outdated. I don't know. I agree with that.
I didn't really see any comments because I haven't paid too much attention to it, to the game. What I did feel is that watching the video, because I hadn't even any idea that there was a new trailer out, it feels very over sharpened for some reason, and I'm not sure if that's the video or if that's actually in a game.
It was a very high quality video.
Yeah, it might be that.
Like, I assume that video went up to 4K based on...
It is in 4K, yeah.
Yeah, because my phone is the most HQ video I watched that day.
I mean, I looking at it now, I don't feel like it's too saturated. I mean, maybe that's just how they're going for.
And some of the clothes look exactly like a vault suit, except it's redone. The colors are redone. It's the exact same outfit, just redone.
I mean, it's probably a game... It very much looks like a game that will be up my alley, especially with the visuals.
See, that's where it loses me. It loses me in one key place. I've talked about it many times, but... I'm a third-person Fallout and Elder Scrolls player. That's me. I like spending 2 hours creating a character and living as that character. And with the Outer Worlds, and what I'll talk about later with Cyberpunk 2077, they don't want to do that. And that completely kills the momentum of me being excited for those games.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I usually play these games in first person, but I mean, especially for role-playing games, I feel like it's important that you can easily see your character, because I mean, it is your character. It is especially in Bethesda games or
Uh,
Bethesda-like games,
and
it's
that's what
important
this
that you
is.
play. Yeah, exactly. It is important that you play who you want and what you even look like, because I'm assuming you can uh, customize your character.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be character customization in the Outer Worlds, and that's what's frustrating. For me, it just kind of defeats the purpose of, okay, we have this character customization thing, but you don't really get to enjoy it to the full extent. Like, even if there's mirrors and stuff that these games, like Cyberpunk 2077 and the Outer Worlds, want to talk about that you can see your character in, that's
Hmm.
not the same.
No, no, I agree.
And especially, like, if this is first person where you look down and you can't see your character at all, if you're just a walk-in camera,
Yeah,
that
first thing I
that has
always
and
do in
always will
first
be really funny but really lame.
person. First thing I always do in a first person game is look down to see if I can see my legs.
And do you laugh every time if you can't?
I laugh every time I can see it. I don't know why. It just amuses me so much if I can
You're
see
a real
my own
boy.
legs.
Now what they probably do is they give you legs, but there's nothing else there. You're still a walking camera. You just a camera with legs.
Yeah.
That's just
I mean,
speculation on my part,
that
but
is.
I assume.
I mean, the way I make my videos is obviously with like having the camera detached, and often the player model in games where you do see your legs is basically really just only your legs.
I'm unsurprised by this. That is, it, it's such a thing to me. Like, I get it, but is it really that big of a deal? Can we really not just have your actual character walking around?
Yeah, I do think that it's important for especially for the type of thing they're going for, that these games have a third person camera.
But the Outer Worlds trailer was beautiful. It was a
Yeah, it
really
was
well done
absolutely gorgeous.
trailer.
I
It the announcer dude made me really look forward to it. It's just so conflicting to me because you just have that thing. Like, why? If they just fix this one flaw I have with it, that's a big core flaw for me, then I could easily get behind it and want to buy the game. But as it is now, I just don't know.
mean, I mean the one good thing about today's technology is that they can update the game. So hopefully they change their minds and maybe give a third person camera in an update. Who knows?
Absolutely. Hopefully that's the thing they go with. Now, the other trailer I brought to you for games was Animal Crossing New Horizons. They did an overview trailer on it. And as someone that's only played one Animal Crossing game, I played the mobile game for a brief time. I'm unimpressed with New Horizons. Like, I think if you are into the Animal Crossing kind of game, you'll probably enjoy it a lot. But if you're an outsider looking in, and you've seen what Animal Crossing has done in the past, from what we know right now, I'm not sure they really added many new things to attract people.
I mean, it's always kind of been the same game, but with updated graphics, right?
Yep.
I feel like, I've played the one on the, I believe the GameCube, and
I
the
don't know which one that'd be.
I believe that's the original. I'm not sure. And the one on the Nintendo DS is one that I've played a lot. I haven't played much of the other ones. I do have them, but it's not really the type of game I will commit a lot of time on.
And I think the new Horizons, it looks good. It looks really good, especially compared to the mobile game that I was playing. But being very pretty doesn't necessarily equal my interest.
It's kind of funny considering you played the mobile version. I thought it would appeal more to the people who played the mobile version because it kind of feels like it took some of the things that were exclusive to the mobile thing, like the crafting, which is kind of the things that turned me off from the game. I'm not sure why, but...
See, for me, all I see when I look at the New Horizons trailer, and this isn't 100% accurate, but it was definitely a thought I had while watching the trailer, is that it looks like they took the mobile game, made it much more high quality in how it looks, changed a few things and made it more similar to the main games, and that's what New Horizons is. And that doesn't really impress me at all, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of want to give it a try because these kind of games interest me in a way, even though I don't really like you're supposed to play them throughout the entire years because, well, every day is a new thing, or, well, not every day, but you know, there's always something new to discover. But I don't know. It does look very pretty. It always does have a interesting concept. It's different than most games.
Yep.
So for that, I'm willing to give it a try. But it's not really the type of game I would spend a lot of time in.
Yeah,
and I hope it's appeals to the I guess the players that are very excited for this, because I don't think it did very well with the Animal Crossing community itself, the mobile game. I'm not sure, but I don't feel like the mobile game is close enough to the...
I was looking at comments for the New Horizons trailer. I found it on Reddit, so I read the Reddit comments and then I read the YouTube comments. And I feel like a lot of people are gonna play it just because it's an Animal Crossing game and that's the kind of game they'd like to play. But at the same time, New Horizons, as I said, and that I agree with, it doesn't really look like they're changing a lot. And yeah, it just doesn't look super impressive in the changes they've made. Besides visually. Visually, it looks very nice.
Yeah.
You gotta give it that.
I mean, it's got that Nintendo style, I guess. Yep. And that is usually the main reason why people buy Nintendo games.
Absolutely. And speaking of another Nintendo Switch game that I'd like to talk about, that I've watched a Let's Play from SSOHPKC on the first game, and apparently it has a cult following. Deadly Premonition 2, A Blessing in Disguise, is an open-world game set in the small town of whatever they call the town. Sorry, I haven't watched the Let's Play in a while, or if this is a new town, oh well, sue me. Your story starts in Boston, where it turns out FBI Special Agent Francis York Morgan will have to revisit the case he thought was solved in 2005. You will be solving various murders and crimes while jumping between 2005 and 2019 in true Deadly Premonition fashion. Only a few games have managed to stir up emotions the way the original Deadly Premonition did, says some guy whose name I don't know at all from Rising Star Games. 10 years later, we're literally thrilled to continue down this path to find out where Swery and his team will take us. And a note from Swery is roughly 10 years have passed since the original was released in 2010. Now a miracle has happened, and I have a chance to reunite with my best friend, something I never thought would be possible. I'm working hard day and night while also looking back on the past to make sure this becomes something that doesn't change me. That doesn't change no matter how much time passes, will also adapt into and interlock in with the current era, a game that encompasses all. Please get yourself a cup of coffee and wait for it to be completed. Although the story of Deadly Premonition 2 is set 9 years after the original game, this sequel actually takes on the form of a prequel, or a pre-sequel, as players will jump into the memories of 2005 as told by the protagonist to relive the incident 5 years before the Greenville incident of the previous game. As young FBI investigator Francis York Morgan, players will visit the peaceful rural town of La Carie, I guess, New Orleans, to investigate a strange series of murders. Deadly Premonition 2 features two heroines, Elijah Davis, a young and impassioned FBI investigator who interrogates the protagonist in 2019, while Patricia is a 10-year-old girl and daughter of the police sheriff in the world of 2005. A mature girl, she plays the role of Watson and follows York around the open world. As it would turn out, the 2005 case that was seemingly resolved will gradually drive the 2019 protagonist and two heroines into madness. The 2019 part of the story begins in Boston. During these parts, the player takes on the role of Elia, interrogating a former gifted FBI agent shrouded in mystery. By interrogating him and acquiring key information, the story will shift to 2005, and during the interrogation, you must break through the walls of the man's heart and get his testimony by showing evidence and making observations about things in the room. The story itself is divided into chapters, and each chapter begins in 2019. By completing each 2019 part, you will jump back to 14 years ago in 2005, New Orleans. In 2005, you become York, who gets wrapped up in a serial murders case happening in this town, which will be resolved in his memories. These parts make up the main systems of the game, where it becomes an action-adventure title set in an open world. Run around the 4-kilometer square rural American town of La Carie and solve the legendary La Carie serial murders case said to have taken so many victims. So, another long read. I think that's the last long read I have for my notes. But, how do you feel about the Deadly Premonition series and the Deadly Premonition sequel?
I am very excited. It is probably the one game that I'm really looking forward to for next year. Because I'm a very big fan of the original and Swery games in general. I don't know why it's the gameplay is not great of the original.
I remember the drive-in was so slow and so janky. That's all I remember from the Let's Play, is he would constantly mock it, and then he'd just be mocking it the whole time he had the drive.
But I feel like the I mean, often people say, when people mention Deadly Premonition, is that they say it's so bad it's good. I don't really fully agree with that, but because there's plenty of things why it's so good. But there is something about this series that it's just special. I mean, it's basically Twin Peaks the game, and I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan, so I probably something to do with that as well.
So you will definitely begin in this game.
Yes, I will probably be getting it day one.
Very nice. For me, it's just very interesting because seeing the reaction people have to certain things. Deadly Premonition 2 seems to be getting a way more positive reception than I would have thought it would have got. So it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, that might also be the loud minority. I don't know. But it's one of those games that you don't really. I mean, it's one of those games where you would expect it just to be one game, and that's it. They're moving on to something else, and I believe it also had to do with Swery losing the license for it somehow. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm being a very big fan of the game. I was kind of surprised by how many people were excited by this as well. Like, it probably was the biggest. Well, I'm not sure. Probably one of the biggest things from that Nintendo Direct being announced, even though it was done so casually.
Very true. It wasn't a long. I think it was like a 44-second trailer.
Yeah, I believe so.
But what I just read was a lot more information that's a lot more insightful than that 44-second trailer. That for me didn't really do much. You got the vibe of what they're going for, but 44 seconds, it's not a long time to accomplish much.
No, the one thing that strikes me as well, I'm not entirely sure if that's the case, but from what I understand, it's a Nintendo exclusive, which is...
It is, and it's weird.
That is weird to me, because there's some weird shit in that going on.
Yeah, that struck me as odd, that why is it a Nintendo Switch exclusive? That doesn't make much sense, but that seems to be what they're going for. Yeah, I mean, it helps the Nintendo Switch's resume, which, as I keep saying throughout the podcast, their resume is just going up and up for me, personally.
Yeah,
a year ago, you could mock the Nintendo Switch and say, it only has like Mario and Zelda. What else does it really have that's not just, here's Saints Row 3 in 2019, or here's this, or here's that. That's all that we're bringing to it. Now it's beginning to get more and more games to itself, and that makes it very interesting. Yeah,
and I mean, I've always said that I buy Nintendo consoles just for games made by Nintendo itself, and I'm really happy that that isn't the case anymore with the Switch.
Absolutely. It feels like... I feel like the Nintendo Wii was the last Nintendo console to really compete in a noticeable way. I feel like the Switch is definitely the next one to actually compete.
Yeah.
And they have one every few years. The next, whatever comes after the Switch, may not do super hot unless they actually capitalize on the Switch and not do like a Wii U thing where they lose everyone.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Wii U was terrible. I actually read a article the other day that there were only, I believe, 3 noteworthy Wii U games that weren't ported to the Switch. So, I mean, the Wii U has basically been integrated into the Switch at this point.
The Wii U has faded away and classified itself as obsolete.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was that after a year of its release, so that's not saying much.
Yeah, Deadly Premonition 2, it's very intriguing. Even if I wasn't super interested in the first game, seeing how people feel about it, and seeing how the second game seems to... It could be that vocal minority, as you're saying, or this could just be the general reception it's gonna get, as long as they don't screw anything up, and that's exciting. And
I'm very happy about that. Yeah, that it. I mean, people knew of the first game, but I feel like it never really got the attention that it deserved, even though it wasn't necessarily good gameplay wise.
Yeah, some games people don't appreciate until after it's gone. After it sold the copies it's gonna sell, it's made the money it's gonna make, and it may not have been a super big success, but people can look back on it, and then once they actually get around to playing it, like, I feel like Deadly Premonition was probably one of those games where whenever it actually released, I'm sure it wasn't people's go-to game to play for the most part. It was probably second or third in line, and they got to it later, and then they appreciated it later. Because that seems to be the cult reception it got. it seems like the first game was just one of those games that people had on their backlog, and when they actually got to it, they all appreciated it. Or at least most people appreciated it.
Yeah, I agree. It's it's just I mean, it was made by relatively I believe at the time it was, I'm not sure if it was that developer's first game. It might have been, and that's why it didn't really get much of a reception.
That would actually make a lot of sense, actually.
That's interesting.
That would explain that pretty well.
Yeah.
So next up on the fun gaming train we're on is Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I said earlier, it's completely lost me. The game appears to now be primarily first person with sprinkles of third person via mirrors, the occasional cutscene moment, although they're removing third person cameras for cutscenes, which is meant by whoever from Cyberpunk 2077 is supposed to help it in gameplay and storytelling perspectives. And we also found out it will also have multiplayer, because multiplayer is in development now for Cyberpunk 2077. That completely took the wind out of my excitement for Cyberpunk 2077 for reasons I said earlier. Does this change how you feel about Cyberpunk 2077? However you felt?
Well, I mean, I think we had this discussion last podcast as well, where I was on, where I'm not exactly the person to ask anything about Cyberpunk because I am very biased against it. Because I always felt like it is getting way more hype than it should be getting. I mean, I've told that already that it's important in these type of games that you can see your own character, but I feel like people already should have known that multiplayer was a thing because I feel like they announced that way back. Before the game was even officially announced, I guess. So I'm not sure why people are surprised by that, but it is kind of weird to me that they now say that it's a post-launch thing, which I mean I guess kind of makes sense, but I don't know.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I feel like I'm out of the boat now. Any excitement I had for the game and the hype towards the game, yeah, I'm out of the boat now. They lost me. I jumped.
Which is funny because I've heard that from a lot of people now because of that. And meanwhile, I've been more towards the trend of wanting to try out the game for for some reason. I don't know, I wasn't ever, I mean, I'm still feeling like the hype is too much, because I always told people like your people are acting like everything is possible in this game, and they shouldn't be really setting their expectations that high. And this kind of proves it, I guess. I mean, I kind of, I believe their reasoning was that they can cut down on the animations because of it, which I kind of can understand. But I mean, I don't believe the game is that long away, is it? So they should have kind of been at a point where
I feel like I've talked about the game length on the podcast before, but I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I feel like they've talked about it, for sure.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I do believe that more and more of this kind of news is going to come out eventually, to try where they try to set people's expectations lower, and it's going to cause backlash.
Absolutely.
But I mean,
Go ahead.
I still want them to do well. I mean, why wouldn't you want them to not do well, of course, but
Absolutely. I'm definitely not rooting against them or the Outer Worlds. I'm not protesting it at all. It's just for my personal buy, they've both lost me until they either change their mind or don't change their mind, and then I'll wait and do like I do every other game, which I was gonna do anyway. Wait till it comes out, see how it's received, wait for it to go on sale, and then maybe buy it.
yeah. I mean, very good tactic. I was gonna say I would recommend that everybody do that, but I think game developers are gonna go out of business if they do that.
True, true. Not everyone can afford. The game companies don't want you to do what I do. That's not very profitable. Which is fair. It's definitely fair. I can see that, but oh well.
Well, I mean, yeah. I just hope they can live up to the hype. I mean, it's a very it's a setting that a lot of people are. It's a setting where not many games take place in, which makes it unique. And I think that's why part of why people want it so bad and why people are hyping it up so much. Well, at that end, it's CD Projekt Red. I think at this point, CD Projekt Red can release a golden turd and people will buy it.
Very true. Very true.
But yeah, hope they do well.
Live long and prosper.
Yes, exactly.
And speaking of not living long and prospering, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, and The Last of Us multiplayer servers on the PS3 are now offline forever.
Yeah, I've that is one of the things that I always. It is also one of the reasons why I wanted to start these kind of videos, because they especially for multiplayer games, these kind of things get lost, and I want to preserve them in some way. That's why I don't like games like Destiny, where essentially you're gonna lose so much of a online portion. Well, I mean, in Destiny's case, you're gonna lose everything if the game goes down. You're not gonna be able to play anything anymore. You basically have a box left, if you even have a box. I feel like in Uncharted's case, these servers went down way sooner than any other game. I mean, the PlayStation at this point is like what, 10 years old?
PlayStation 3 probably released a little over a decade ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it always makes me sad when those kind of things happen. I mean, it's inevitable, but
yep, it's inevitable. Some things are inevitable.
At least you can still play them on the PS4, I believe. Well, I mean,
I don't think the Uncharted, the Nathan Drake collection, you could do the multiplayer.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think so. I've not played it myself, and I don't have the internet to do it. I'm pretty sure what I was reading that you can't.
I know the remaster for The Last of Us at least has the multiplayer in it, but I'm not sure about the Uncharted one.
And say The Last of Us multiplayer. I guess to talk about The Last of Us multiplayer, it's fine. I guess it looks fine, but was it really something people were still playing in 2019?
I'm not sure about the PS4 version, but I don't think I think I don't think the PS3 version was played
Yeah,
all that often
yeah.
anymore. So I think
I,
that one isn't that big of a loss, I guess, because the PS4 version is still up. But for if the Uncharted version of PS4 doesn't have the multiplayer, then it's sad that the PS3 versions actually got shut down.
very true, very true. Did you see that Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger music has now been added to Spotify officially?
Yeah, I saw
So,
that. I mean, I want all the developers to just post all their video game music on Spotify, even though I don't really listen to it, but I mean, it's always.
absolutely. I'm never gonna listen to Chrono. I mean, I probably won't listen to Chrono Cross or Chrono Trigger music on Spotify, but I like bringing it up on the podcast because those people that will appreciate it, it's good to get the word out. That way people can be like, oh, I really enjoyed the music in this game. Now I can go listen to it.
Yeah, and so many developers have been doing this, I believe. I think
Absolutely.
the only big one that hasn't really done this is Nintendo. And out of all of those, I think people are the most excited for that. So I just get on it,
Nintendo, get your
Nintendo.
act
Just
together.
yeah, exactly. Especially if they're taking down the videos on YouTube where people post the soundtracks, which kind of is understandable, but still.
It's understandable, but if you're not going to release it yourselves, why do you care?
Yeah.
It's just being a dick.
I mean, hopefully, because it's pretty recent, I believe. Hopefully, them taking it down is a hint at them bringing it to Spotify as well.
True.
Maybe. Hopefully.
And it's only beneficial to put the music on Spotify. I don't see why you wouldn't let people hear it.
Yeah, and it just earns your money, I believe.
Yep. It's free money. People will hear the music and be like, oh, I want to get back to the game. How can I buy it? And then they'll go buy it again if they don't own it on whatever current, newest way they can play it.
And Nintendo likes to release a lot of old games over and over, so I'm sure you can find it, so why not?
So this may be a bust. That's why I waited till towards the end of Game and Talk. Did you see, and more importantly, do you care that Batista is coming to Gears 5?
Who?
Dave Batista, he had a role in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He's the big muscle guy of the crew.
Hold on. Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think I particularly cared. I mean, fun, I guess, but why?
That's exactly where I thought this one would go, but, you know. As
Well,
a wrestling fan, I had to bring it up.
For fans, of course, it's fun,
Yep.
but I don't really see a point in putting him in a game like that. Why?
Because he walks alone inside this pit of danger. A place where nobody follows him. He walks alone.
I believe they added. Didn't they add another strange character to it as well? I believe it was like Terminator, maybe. I'm not sure.
I think so, something like that. That was a while ago, though. That wasn't. Yeah, I think that was like a few weeks ago, if not a month ago.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really a big fan of that game anyway, so...
Yeah, I'm not really excited for Gears 5, but I thought that was at least something interesting for the wrestling fan side of me, that Batista's gonna be in it, for whatever reason. So, I think this is the last game and topic I have on hand. Valve, going full circle from Nintendo to PC, Valve is working on a new Steam Labs experiment which plans on improving search page with more filters and infinite scrolling. New filters include hidden, owned, ignored, wish games, and possibly a max price control. It's interesting to see where Steam Labs is going with Steam and what Valve is trying to do with this to help make it all better and improve it, especially now that we have Epic Games, which seemingly has been getting a lot of critiques, the Epic Games Store.
Yeah, I mean, I actually made my first purchase on the Epic Games Store the other day, but I couldn't wait for Control. uh, I like Steam Labs, and I've been waiting forever for the redesign. So I'm happy that they're finally going through with it. Because let's be honest, this design that they currently have going on is a bit old and doesn't always work as intended.
Very true. And especially continuing to improve it, especially now, it's very critical that they at least show the people that they're trying.
Yeah.
I feel like people will critique something to death, but I feel like people are more lenient as long as they can see that you're honestly trying and you're not just saying fuck you and giving the middle finger.
Yeah, I agree. Trying to find back the page for the Steam Labs thing, but can't find it.
Rip.
I do have some problems with the Steam Labs, so I mean that's why it's in Steam Labs, because they're still testing it out, I guess. But
Yep.
I believe the game recommender, or they're all game recommenders, or well, at least one of the tools gave me some weird 18 plus games based on the games that I've played, and I'm not sure what I've done to Steam for them to do this to me, but
they really want you to play those.
I hope they get that fixed before they put that in the actual Steam store.
Can't believe you don't like their recommendations.
But I mean, you can kind of feel like Steam is trying to push back against the Epic Games Store with these kind of things. And I'm not necessarily against Epic Games Store. I mean, I am kind of against them buying out the games.
Yep.
But hey, I've been getting free games for the past 6 months, I believe, including games that I've been wanting to play, so I'm not going to complain too much about Epic Games Store.
My big thing, and what I'm still waiting to see, will they have the same kind of sales that Steam has? That could at least be a good argument for why it would be better to possibly look into the Epic Games Store, because as of right now, I'm still not sold, and once I'm moved and actually am a PC gamer, at least a little bit, I'll still primarily be Steam.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably always be Steam, because at this point I almost have 1,000 games on it, so
Only.
So I guess you could say that I'm a bit too invested into it at this point. But I mean, I've been buying from Origin and Uplay as well, every now and then, if the time is right and
it's all about getting the best deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Best deal or best experience is what you want to look for.
Yeah, and currently, to me, Epic Games Store isn't that.
Very true. Very true. So, Bad Boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad Boys for life. I really enjoyed the first two Bad Boys movies when I was a kid, so I am absolutely looking forward to Bad Boys for life.
when you sent me this trailer, I had a look into it, and wasn't even aware that there was a second movie. Um, and the first one has been a really long time since I've watched it. But I mean, I'm a Will Smith fan, so I'll watch it, and I'm gonna watch 2 now that I know of it.
What you gonna do now that they've come for you?
I'm probably not going to watch it in the cinema.
It'll be a good rental.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of one of those movies that will appear on Netflix pretty soon after it gets on Blu-ray, so...
I think it's gonna be a very entertaining movie from the trailer. I thought it looked both good and what it normally does, and it absolutely made me laugh a couple of times, so...
Yeah.
And I still thought it was funny when you had the younger cast towards the end of the trailer start singing the Bad Boys song, and then Will Smith just cutting that shit down.
I always thought it was more of a. I mean, that's why I didn't really know, because it's been so long since I watched it. But I always thought it was more serious than comedy. I'm not sure if that was the case with the old ones as well, but.
I like to think of it as an action movie with a fair bit of comedy added to it, and that's what made it good.
Yeah.
You had the comedy aspect of it that made it something you'd laugh at and enjoy. I thought it was a good combination of the two.
And it has Will Smith, like I said.
Yep.
Almost anything with Will Smith, I'll watch. So, sign me up for that.
That makes a lot of sense. So, I guess before I actually move on to the next topic, I added this at about 4 a.m. Actually probably close to like 5 a.m. Because it was way after we stopped messaging last night before you said you had to go get groceries. But I was listening to a Joe Rogan Experience. I've been trying to slowly make my way through the Joe Rogan Experience. And they were talking about whatever, and it got me to thinking, for whatever reason, it brought to my mind, and I think that's something interesting the Joe Rogan Experience does, is it brings things to your mind. I haven't looked into this to fully understand it, but I don't understand, and maybe this is just 4 or 5 a.m. West that was being dumb. How does science explain how, in the process of the baby being created, how were those bones created? How does that work? I don't get it. How are bones created?
I'm not sure if I had this in biology. I have no idea, man.
It was just it was a mind fuck, because I'm like, I don't fucking know. I was a C student in science. Science was never my forte in school. I never liked it, and I did mediocre at it. But I try to logically think about it, and I just don't understand.
I mean,
I'm sure there's a scientific explanation.
Your bones grow as well, right? So
they do.
I guess in the same way.
But how does it go?
How does it start?
From a sperm and an egg to bones.
I have no idea, man. I'm not educated enough for this.
It does make you wonder, though. I'm not crazy.
I'm sure there's a very logical explanation that makes you go,
sure
"Oh, right."
It's something you need to Google, but you don't really want to take the time to Google.
I guess the same as your eyes and your brain and all that.
But how does that work? How
I don't know. I don't know.
Sperm and an egg. These are the things I wonder while listening to the Joe Rogan Experience.
I mean, everything else is soft material, so is that why no. Well, they always tell you to drink your milk, so I guess
It's the milk.
yes, exactly. So probably the milk that your mother drinks
my.
becomes your bones.
Oh my. It is still a mindfuck, but I'm satisfied sharing that. I added it to my notes just as a random thing to bring up. I didn't really expect I'd get an answer to the question, but
I mean, I'm
definitely...
wondering now. I'm wondering now if I learn because I did 4 years of biology, but I.
So you should know this.
Well, I mean, it was a minor, so I don't know if I probably learned it in some way, but that was many years ago. So almost everything that I learned during those classes is blurry to me.
So, it's time to put your religion hat on. I don't know, and it doesn't really matter what your religious standpoint is for this, but this is very close to me. I live in Tennessee, about to be Alabama, but a Catholic school in Tennessee has removed the Harry Potter books from its library after the school's priest decided they could cause a reader to conjure evil spirits. In an email obtained by the Tennessean, the Reverend Dan whatever of Nashville's St. Edward Catholic School said he consulted exorcists in the U.S. and someone recommended removing the books. He talked about the curses and spells used in the books are actual curses and spells which, when read by a human being, risk conjuring evil spirits into the presence of the person reading the text. I
don't know, man. It's. I mean, back in the, I guess the 80s or 90s, whatever, when D&D just started, this had like a similar topic where kids weren't allowed play D&D. I don't know. It just blows my mind how you can think of something like that.
And especially, this isn't even like, oh, this is a new book series that's come out that we let kids read. This has
almost
been
20
around
years.
for over 20, like 20 years now since the first book came out. Come on. Well, I'm so baffled. Why is this a news story for this week? When I seen it, I couldn't believe it. And I knew.
I wonder if the same library still has other books with...
That's what the response
kind of
was. And they were like, oh, I bet that school still teaches Latin.
Yeah. Probably.
Anytime I bring a topic from Tennessee or Alabama, it's never anything good. Crazy people live here.
Shotguns with your cars.
Was that the last time you were on? Is that when I brought that up? Oh my god. That's still just that. What a thing. That was a complete coincidence that I brought another Tennessee or Alabama-esque topic for you. I guess a lucky coincidence. But I've had a lot of lucky coincidences. I brought up the Telltale thing that you were a big fan of. I brought up the Deadly Premonition thing that you were a big fan of. I've been nailing it.
That's what makes it a special episode. It's episode 40.
Absolutely. I do research. Like, I'll have topics that I'm like, do I want to talk about it on the podcast? So I'll do a Discord search to see, tag guest. And then I'll look through their messages on like the YouTuber server, and I'm like, have they ever talked about this before? And if I don't say anything, I'm like, this isn't a big enough deal, so I'm gonna just remove it from play. I don't want to risk it. And that way you can see without directly asking if someone likes or dislikes a topic, and that kind of helps.
I'm still trying
That's
to process
one of my cheat codes.
the Harry Potter thing. I'm trying to figure out a logical reason, but
When Wingardium Leviosa is, you're a witch if you dare. If you buy one of those wands, you're a witch. And you know what happens to witches?
I'm not gonna get burned.
It's just so baffling. Like,
so what are they gonna do if they find a kid reading those books? Like, you can't just burn a kid.
detention, detention, a paddling, something. I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, kind of makes sense, I guess.
You have to beat the witch out of them.
I mean, they still perform exorcism, so it's probably gonna be something like that.
There was an exorcist there, apparently.
Oh,
that
right.
was a part of this whole thing, you know? To exorcise the evil spirits, you have to get rid of the Harry Potter books. Clearly.
I don't get it.
It's whatever lame thing we can attach to whatever thing we're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
So, this is also, this isn't a Texas law. I know this is really gonna matter to you, because you totally live in Texas, so, you pretend you live in Texas for a moment, and then you can tell me how you feel about this very, new law. So, the law set to take effect Saturday, which, tomorrow, because we're recording this on Friday, or at least, it's still Friday for you. Yeah, it's still Friday for you.
Yeah.
The law set to take effect Saturday forbids what is often characterized as technology-enabled sexual harassment and makes electronic transmission of sexually explicit material a Class C misdemeanor with a fine of up to $500 if the person who received it hasn't given consent. It is said that the law is targeting unwanted images, and it will apply to text messages, emails, dating apps, and social media. A 2017 survey by Pew Research Center found women encounter sexual harassment online at a much higher rate than men. The study found 21% of women ages 18 to 29 report being sexually harassed online, compared to 9% of men in the same age group. Roughly 53% of those 21% of the ages of 18 to 29 said someone has sent them explicit images they did not ask for. So, Texas is trying to do away with that, and apparently that could mean up to a $500 fine if you're caught sending a nude without consent. How do you feel as a Texan about this very, very prominent law?
I mean, I'm all for it, of course, but it strikes me as, for some reason, out of all states, that Texas is the first is weird to me for some reason.
Well, I mean, the law's similar. Like, you have the anti-revenge porn laws, but a lot of them don't really do anything. They're there on paper, but do they really enforce it? Not generally. And I feel like I hear up to a $500 fine, and I'm like, is that really gonna stop the people that send nudes unsolicited? I don't really, unless it's actually enforced heavily, and like those people, like Because, the people that do that send it to multiple women, just bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
So can you stack these fines and give them like a $5,000 fine?
I mean, how are you gonna... I guess you're not always gonna be able to find out who sent them.
That's the tricky part, though. If you do it by a dating app or Facebook or something, unless you're going by a fake name and none of your actual personal information is on those pages, it'll be easy enough to track you. And Bumble, which is one of the big dating apps, it's similar to Tinder, except women have to message first. They're working with the people in Texas because they're based in Austin, Texas, and they're directly gonna work with Texas on this to help enforce it.
I mean, if it's enforced, then sure, why not? But like
do you think the punishment is enough to dissuade people from doing it? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
But
I think it should be like a heavier thing, because I mean it's still sexual harassment, so
it is. So it's like, on one hand, you look at it on paper and it's like, oh, it's online, so it's not as big of a deal. But the more we find out about studies is what happens online absolutely can affect you mentally. So
yes.
You need to take it just as seriously. So do you match the punishment of whatever the punishment would be if you walked up to a woman and you whipped your dick out, or you're a woman and you whip your stuff out?
I think it should be. I'm not sure how
and
much
have those be equivalent.
I'm not sure how much a fine for that is, but I do think it should be the same fine, because it's essentially the same thing.
The same fine or punishment. I'm not sure what the punishment for that is.
Right.
Honestly. I guess I should have looked that up before the topic, but I didn't really think about that. I try not to think about these topics before I talk about it on the podcast, and that way you get my actual thoughts.
I do absolutely think that it should be the same fine or punishment as doing it like in real life.
Absolutely, I can definitely. There should be the equivalent. Online doesn't mean less impactful.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
So, final topic of the podcast: Walmart. I guess first. So you've had multiple mass shootings, and one was at a Walmart recently. So their first tactic to showing that they did not approve of this at all was they wanted to hide the violent video games. Well, surprise, surprise, another shooting happened. Hiding the violent video games did not solve the problem. No shit. That isn't going to be the solution to this very heavy issue. Now, Walmart is discontinuing the sales of short barrel rifle ammunition, such as the .223 caliber and 5.56 caliber, discontinuing sales of handgun ammunition, and discontinuing handgun sales entirely in Alaska. It's also asking shoppers to no longer openly carry firearms in stores in state where open carry is allowed unless they are authorized by law enforcement officers. And to add on to this story, CVS, Kroger, and Walgreens have joined in on asking shoppers to no longer openly carry firearms in stores. So there's multiple layers to that. First, the easier thing to tackle. I absolutely can agree with not open carrying in stores. I'm not against you having guns to defend yourself, but when it comes to open carry, for me, even if it's a police officer, I get uncomfortable personally.
Well, I mean, I can't really like how do you say it? Live
Understand,
myself,
comprehend. Yep.
comprehend, I guess, because I over here it's not very like, well, I was gonna say common, but it's non-existent here, I guess, to carry firearms to begin with.
Imagine
Because
though if you went to a store and you had people open carrying, how would that make
yeah,
you
yeah,
feel?
of course that will make me very uncomfortable.
Yep.
Um, just not even at a store, probably even in public in general.
Yeah, I absolutely
Um,
agree. When it comes to the open carry thing, do I think that's going to solve the problem? No. Do I think it's a good change though? Absolutely. Uh, there's no real reason why you need to open carry. Uh, that's an unless it's your job and you need that weapon, which it still makes people uncomfortable. Concealed carry is fine.
this is, I mean, for I would say for an officer or something, I would say yes. But even as a civilian, I cannot like comprehend people even having it concealed or something. I mean, I'm sure it happens
Absolutely.
here as well, illegally, that you cannot see, but
Out of sight, out of mind.
yeah, exactly.
And yeah, American gun laws are very controversial because anytime anyone wants to alter America's stance, a lot of people get very upset. And I'm sure if anyone is super pro gun, and I'm not anti gun at all, but I'm sure somebody will not like my I don't think anyone should open carry necessarily unless it's your job. And but for me, I can understand the concealed carry argument, and especially here, I that's guns are more prevalent here. I
Yeah.
get it. So concealed carry is the lesser of two evils for me. Open carry just makes people uncomfortable. Even if you live in a place like I do, where it's more gun friendly, which is very safe to say Alabama and Tennessee are way more gun friendly. Case in point, what you were bringing up earlier, how on the last time you were on, you had the shotgun thing.
um, I mean, yeah, because I mean, like I said, I can't really
Put yourself in that position.
put myself into it because we don't really have like not everybody gets a gun here. Basically, the only place you will see a gun is at a shooting gallery, for example, or whatever you call
Absolutely.
it, like a gun range, whatever.
A place where it's appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I do feel like it should be like that, but I guess for over there, it's hard to change those kind of things.
Absolutely. And there's
At this
no
point.
possibility of being like, okay, we want to get rid of guns. You're not going to do that. Whether you're pro gun or anti gun, realistically, there are more guns than people here. You're not going to get rid of the guns. That's
No,
just the
because I'm not
reality
sure.
of the situation.
I'm not sure if they're. I don't think guns are being tracked there, are they? Like, it's not being
They do
tracked.
not know where all the
has-
guns are.
Okay, yeah,
They
exactly.
do not know where all the guns are.
I mean, over here it gets tracked. So, for example, if that was the case here, they can easily recall those guns and know where those guns are. But over there at that point, you could say like, bring in all your guns. Receive
Some guns
some
are
kind
registered
of...
here. Some of them are, but not all of them.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard to say like bring them over here, you get compensation, but you don't know if people really will bring everything they have. So
Absolutely. Isn't it?
as much as I
Unless
would
you
love
literally
like it
went,
that way, but
unless you had a SWAT team go house by house, and you literally you stopped all the police. You brought in the fire department as well, and you had all of them at the exact same time go across the United States at the same time, so nobody has time to hide them, and started barging into people's houses for guns. Even then, I don't think you'd successfully get all the guns.
no.
And that's the tough reality of it, regardless of what side you're on.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm one of those people, mostly probably because of where I'm from.
Where you live and what your culture is. There.
I will be against guns, but
Yep.
I do understand that that it's hard to change something about it.
Absolutely. Well, how have you felt about your second time on the podcast?
I had fun. Maybe I'll get voted again and appear a third time. I don't know.
We'll see how people feel on the survey, because now there's going to be an every episode survey where I ask questions about how you felt about the episode, how you felt about the guest, how you felt about this or that topic, and then what needs to be improved for next time. I hope, because there are definitely multiple viewers on each podcast now, I hope that now that the podcast has grown, that the survey gets some love. Because I really want the survey to be the tool, and that one of the stopgaps that's like, okay, this is what the people that enjoy watching think, and that helps me translate, okay, this is what I'm doing right, this is what I'm doing wrong, this is who they really like and want to see come back, this is who they don't want to see come back. It'd be, if works, is a great way for communication anonymously. Because the survey can be done, and is done, regardless, 100% anonymously, unless you include in one of your answers who you are. That would be the only way that it wouldn't be anonymous. And a podcast I listen to does a survey, and I think the survey is pretty cool to read. Especially if the person shares the results. And I'm okay with sharing the results of the survey. Once the survey gets some love. But if everyone has enjoyed this edition of the BS Podcast, you know, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whoever listens to this on Amazon, Alexa / the Echo, I'm still, every week, I'm going to ask at the end and see how you're doing that. I still don't know. I haven't Googled it.
Wait, can't you just like play podcast Westocracy?
Could you be like, hey Alexa, play the BS podcast from Westocracy or something?
I think that's how it works.
But you'd have to download it, because this is stats from downloads. So I guess you download it and then play?
So Alexa download, I don't know. I don't have Alexa, so...
Last month, there was a very big population of Amazon Alexa / Echo, and it's now like the 4th or 5th highest downloads for how people are getting through the podcast. Spotify and Apple Podcasts are still number 1 and number 2, but that grew a lot last month. I'm very intrigued. It's so interesting to me.
Tweet how you did it. Tell us.
Yes, tell me on Discord. Join the Discord server. Let me know my curiosity about it. I love when a new location downloads, when it comes to, oh, this is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, wherever, and then when you have new places that I've never heard of or didn't know you could do it, imagine if a smart fridge was the next one. That would be intriguing.
I mean, listening to podcasts while cooking isn't that weird. So
It's not.
I
It
mean,
makes sense.
what other place than using your fridge?
What would you call your fridge if you call Amazon's thing Alexa? What do you call the fridge?
Hmm.
Bertha, maybe?
I mean, I guess that's more of a car name. I mean,
I
guess Betty.
have no idea. But yeah, maybe. That- That's hilarious to me. But yeah, hopefully everyone's enjoyed the podcast. Tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, or my website, Flurdeh with an EH at the end. And well, I post videos or try to post videos once every 2 weeks, and usually do a lot of game photography on Twitter if you're into that. And yeah.
Oh, that's something else. Has Twitter done anything about your issue? Or is
About my
it
issue?
still as bad as it was?
the issue with the cropping the photos.
Yeah, with the picture. Yeah.
Oh no, it hasn't,
Ouch.
and it's so annoying.
See, that wasn't as I told you. So what happened was Twitter desktop has been making it more like mobile Twitter. They've visually they've made it a lot more like Twitter, and they keep doing it. And now that you in the picture preview, until you click on it, you only see like the middle portion or whatever part of the crop they decide. Yeah. So now you have to press on it to get the full image. And for mobile people, that's always been the thing, really. But now PC people are having to deal with that, and that's hilariously bad.
The entire new UI makes me hate it. I know you can go back somehow, but I'm too lazy to fix that.
Old school Twitter classic, coming soon.
Yeah, why not? Bring it. I'll pay you for it.
You'll pay for it. You don't pay for the current Twitter, yet you'd pay for a Twitter classic. Yep. Just to bring it back. That's so bad. But hopefully everyone enjoyed this episode. Peace out, everyone. We only went 2 hours. It looks like about 2 hours.
Yeah, roughly.